under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call to order at 5:30. Roll call, please.
Emily Hunt Daly. Robert Hayes.
Here.
Richard Jones. Ron Ortiz.
Here.
Dr. Guy Archambault.
Here. Two, adoption of agenda, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board, if I could, Mr. President, I'd like to just take a second. I'd like to introduce to the board and to the public, new member of our administrative team. Mr. Ronald Triplehorn is now the Director of Facilities and Operations. Welcome to the.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
And if I could, Mr. President, one other item that I would feel obligated to present to you is I'd like to have a moment of silence for one of our employees, Mr. Woodward, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. He's a long-standing employee with Grand Cebolla County Schools. And if I could ask for a moment of silence for him and his family.
Thank you.
And with that,
Thank you.
Mr. President, I do recommend that the board will adopt the agenda as presented this evening.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Robert Hayes, Board Member Robert Hayes, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ron Ortiz to approve the agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Robert Hayes.
Aye.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Dr. Guy Archambault.
Yes. Three, adoption of minutes.
Mr. President, Board, I recommend that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move to approve the adoption of the minutes.
Motion is made by Ron Ortiz,
I'll second.
seconded by Ron Hayes to approve the minutes as presented. Roll call.
Robert Hayes.
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Dr. Guy Archambault.
Yes. Motion carries for the adoption of the agenda and adoption of minutes. Recognition, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board, it's with great pleasure that we honor one of our team members. Dr. Delton Morton was able to receive his full United States citizenship, I believe you and your family yesterday. And so with that, we congratulate you and welcome you to those honors. I'd just like to say that Dr. Martin not only has achieved his United States citizenship, but he's been very instrumental in helping a lot of our foreign teachers work through some of the blue tape and all the things they have to go through to teach here with our district without cost. I think there's been too many times where foreign teachers will come to work and they get charged a lot of money by a lot of attorneys and they go through a lot of processes. Dr. Martin has streamlined that for the people that come to work for Grand Cebolla County Schools. And it's been a very good benefit to not only to our community, but to those employees that are coming to work for our students here. So we thank you for that as well. On behalf of the school board and the administration of Grand Cebolla County Schools, Dr. Martin, we present to you a certificate of recognition and thank you for all of your work. Don't trip.
everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Markin, I know that it was quite a challenge for all these years for you to sustain that effort. And it's an honor, you just bestow an honor upon your family. And we extend our appreciation for your family. And that we wish you well in your new capacity as a citizen of the United States of America. It's phenomenal. We all owe a gratitude for all the citizens of the United States and to succeed in sustaining our country as it should be. And you are now one of those who will be great supporters of what we believe in. Thank you. Mr. Pettis, citizens to address the board.
Mr. President, Board, there are no citizens to address the board.
Thank you. 6 presentations.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board, our first presentation is what we've done fairly regularly throughout the school year last year, and we'd like to continue that throughout the school year this year. We'd like to share with the board some of the good things that are going on at some of the schools, and there's always a lot of great things going on. We have a lot of great staff, wonderful students, and I think sometimes it's very necessary to share some of those things with the board and with the community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Reina Sanchez.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, we're excited for this time again. We get to share the good things that we get to see all the time, and everybody else doesn't necessarily get to see those. And so the sites have been asking for this presentation to add to it since we started school, and so we're excited. So Martin, do you have that? Yeah, you're up first.
Tag your.
So, Tania is the counselor at Cobero and Cebolleta. And Cobero and Cebolleta have been very, very busy.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Twania Manuelito. As Rena said, I'm the school counselor at Cobero and Cebolleta Elementary. And we have been doing a lot of great things. First of all, we had we had Laguna and Acoma Tribal Advisement come to our school to give some words of encouragement to our students. The students were really happy to show the leaders in their communities their school. They were very respectful and gave them their attention and listened to the words that they had to provide for them. So that was one success that we had since school started. Secondly, we had our Anti-Pulline Color Run. This is the first time we've had this event, and we had such a good turnout. We got a lot of positive feedback from the community, from families, from staff. We also partnered with Laguna Behavioral Health and Prevention and Acoma Wellness Department. So Laguna had provided the white t-shirts for the students, staff, and teachers. Acoma they also gave us water and watermelon. So that was some of their donations. And Acoma Wellness, they gave the students snacks. So they donated snacks and volunteers to help with the event. It was a good turnout. It was so much fun. It was a lot of fun. And lastly, a picture that's not included, but something I wanted to add was we were able to train most of our staff at Cobero and Cebolleta in the QPR. That was one of our goals for the school year, to align with the preventative measures for school safety-wide, our district-wide initiative. So those are just 3 of our successes that we've had since school started. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next we have Laguna Acoma Junior Senior High School. Do we have anybody from LA? I know that they have a lot of engagement in their classrooms right now. They're focusing on turning the standards that they have to engaging standards in the classroom to engage their students in all that they're learning. Their cross-country volleyball and football team are off to a great start. Football won over Fort Wingate. Not sure who volleyball played, but I know that they had a win, and cross-country did great too. And so there was a meet out at cross-country, and then I saw them at the Rio Rancho Jubilee also, and so I got to see that one. And then they started a new tradition at Laguna Acoma where their seniors get to paint their parking spots. And so these are some of the pictures of some of the parking spots that the seniors got to paint for so that that's theirs this year.
Really?
And so they'll paint over
So
them
those-
next year, but so all the pictures on the right, that's a new tradition that they're starting at Laguna Acoma this year. And so they were very proud of those spots too. The next one is also mine. You see Mr. Widener speaking at the NMACTE, the Career and Technical Education conference that we got to go to. And so I went along with several of our broadcasting teacher, 2 of our welding teachers, our construction trades teacher, and then Mr. Widener and I got to go. There was close to 400 people there at the CNM workforce. And there was presenters from all over teaching us about how to spend some of the funds that we have coming in for CTE, how to do externships for teachers and for students, how to engage our students, and really just spreading the message that CTE is needed with a huge shortfall coming up in the next several years of skilled trades workers. And so I feel like we're really on the right path with what we're doing. And their message to everyone, their theme of their conference was share your CTE story. And I really feel like that's what we've been doing with our CTE efforts, is sharing our story. So I was able to share that story with several people there, and that was exciting for us there. And something that I text Mr. Pettis right away from that conference was that they said that the data doesn't always show everything, but the story that goes along with the data is what really tells a lot. And I feel like that's what we're doing too with presentations like this. And so it was a really, really good conference that our teachers came back really energized and excited about.
Fantastic.
And now we have a Grants High School senior. Mallory, you wanna come
Hello, my name is Valerie Misleski. I'm here today to present my paper written about my experience I had when I attended the Boys State program. This program, as far as I know, takes place in New Mexico Eastern State University in Portales, New Mexico. During my time, we had stayed on a college campus where during our free time we could explore and see firsthand what an actual college campus is like. Just like a real college student, we had to sleep in separate dorms as well as follow any protocols and rules of the college. To top off the realism, we had to use college dorm showers. The college showers is both a very private and very public place. It's kind of like a public bathroom stall, separated but doing your own thing. A real campus is far different from high school, similar but more of the real deal. I am grateful at the opportunity given to me to share my experience at the Boys State and hopefully inspire juniors to participate in this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Boys State program is a summer camp offered to juniors all across the states. For New Mexico's Boys State, the summer camp lasts a total of 5 days. During these 5 days, I began to realize how much this program offers as well as how it could really benefit me, not only for my senior year, but as well as my college years. This summer camp helped a lot with my senior year by covering one of my AP classes. I was guaranteed an AP class my senior year, but in attending Boys State, I had covered my AP class and I never had to take the class afterwards. That's only the beginning. In completing the 5-day course, it guaranteed me 3 credits towards college and opened many opportunities for and in college. Such opportunities include law school. In attending Boys State, I gained a higher knowledge in the democratic process of government, which helps immensely if you want to take law school. One of the main opportunities was being offered to attend Boys Nation. Boys Nation is an annual forum concerning civic training, government, leadership, and Americanism that is run by the American Legion. This opportunity is so huge that only 100 Boys Nation senators are chosen from a pool of over 20,000 Boys State participants, making it one of the most selective educational programs in the United States. Sadly, I lost this opportunity to a tie and lost a draw card, which stopped me from attending Boys Nation. But I never dwelled over the situation because I was given a $1,000 scholarship due to the leadership skills I presented during my time at the camp. The Boy State program offered me more than I could think, but from my own personal experience, I had the worst luck I could imagine during my 5-day stay. The mission of Boy State is to administrate, promote, and organize training and counseling for young men to participate in the democratic process of government. And that is exactly what we did/learned at the Boy State camp. We didn't grab books to start studying, we didn't do any homework. No, instead we learned leadership skills through Roleplay Civic. We would roleplay in a simulated participation in the democratic process of government. A couple of roles some students got assigned were county sheriff, the judge, governor, lieutenant governor, house, senate, etc. In these roles, we would roleplay as if we ran the government of New Mexico. We would pass laws, veto laws, and come up with new ideas to make New Mexico better functioning for society. Considering this is roleplay and knowing we could make our own laws, there were some laws passed that brought a sense of humor to the act. One of the laws passed is called the Morbin Time Act. This law states that when asked what time it is, Boy State attendees will declare it's Morbin time, except in the case that they are asked what time is it really. In that case, Boy State attendees will declare the actual time. Granted, it was a silly law, but it showed how real laws take place in real world as well as the consequences that law can hold. During my 5 days I attended, I tried my hardest to get put into a role, but luck just wasn't on my side. During the first 2 days, I attempted to take the role of county sheriff. Well, when all votes were settled, me and another student tied. The best way they thought of settling this was with the coin flip. They flipped the coin and boom, I lost. Up come the next day, I attempt to fill the role of lieutenant governor. All votes are settled, and again, I'm tied with another student. Great, another coin toss. The coin is in the air, and boom, I lost. On the 4th day, luck wasn't with me. I attempt to attend Boys Nation by getting the most votes. Votes are in, and yet again, I get another tie with the student. This time, the counselors thought of a card draw. Whoever pulls the higher card wins. Got my card, and boom, I lost again. I feel a little discouraged, but I keep my head up high. Fast forward later that day on our free time, me and a couple of students went to go to the gym. We're running when my foot finds the only pothole in the grass and nearly breaks my ankle. So the last 2 days I limped around campus. Finally, we make it to the last day. Everything seems to be going well, until it's time for bed. I get up to go use the dorm bathroom, and with just my luck, I open the door and the hinges go flying off. The momentum of the door slams into the ceiling light and it breaks. Thankfully, the counselors knew it wasn't intentional and didn't make me pay any charges. Though my experience was a little unlucky, I was super thankful at the opportunity given to me. It was one of the best experiences that was offered to me, and I hope that this experience I went through and what Boy State has to offer inspires many other juniors to participate in Boy State.
Good job, fantastic. Oh, before you go? Yeah, would you come on up?
Sorry.
Hey there.
Yeah.
Did you know any of the other students beforehand?
No, they were all from New Mexico, just around different places, yes.
Okay.
But no, I didn't know no one.
So how do you think you're gonna make use of this experience in the future?
How do I think I'm gonna make use of it? By learning what it taught me, such as like the leadership skills and how to really put myself out there and socialize with more people, and really it helped me gain a higher knowledge of just real world situations and what actual laws and government has to hold.
Fantastic. Would Mr. and Mrs. Maslowski, would you stand up, please? Would you stand beside him so I can take a photo?
Sure. That's what you wanted to do.
And would you give me your cell phone? Sure. Someone get his cell phone so we can take a picture of that.
Oh, my cell phone. Well, your cell phone, no, your cell phone, yeah.
I got it.
Well, I want to use theirs because I'm not sure I'll be able to get everything in there. But the reason I'm doing this is because I've known this family for, it's been a long time, ever since in Cubero and before.
20 years.
And this family has been has been so active. They've had children who have gone through our school system. And I've known some of them personally, and I really wanted to congratulate you, the family, and it has turned out well. You are a remarkable family, and you are remarkable parents. And so I wanted to let you know that, okay? And it's really important for us to be able to acknowledge that, okay? Round of applause for them.
Being an inspiration in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And everybody here included as well. I just wish I happened to know him longer.
Okay, thank you. And you had to have been just a little guy, man.
Yeah.
Speak up. Yeah, like you like each other.
Put it by
Yeah.
the screen.
Right.
Maybe he wants
It's
to
not
be on
in
the
the-
screen.
I don't know, let's see if we can get the screen in there. So we have
Uh-oh.
a presentation.
Would you like
You want us
to
to
start?
switch
Oh,
over?
we scoot.
No, it's
Over 5 steps to
No,
the.
I got it.
Hey, get us a,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
it's been, well, I saw, he was just a little guy. Thank you very much.
And I'm already hearing great things this year about Valor and his CTE classes and his leadership experience and possibly Skills USA. I'm hearing things, I'm hearing things.
Very true.
Thank you.
Um,
Next we have Mesa View Elementary.
Hi, how are you guys tonight? This year, we had a really great opportunity in being able to create a chance for all of our students to be successful. Sometimes some of our students get a little bit left out, and so we created this classroom to make sure that they were going to be successful. What I really wanted to tell you guys about is one of our activities that we do every Friday. It's called Fun Food Friday. So you have to say it fast, like 5 times in a row, because it's really hard to say fast. But we like to cook in the classroom. If you walk by my classroom in the afternoon on Friday, you'd think like they're just having snack. You know, they're just having snack. Well, but it's not snack. The kids are cooking in the classroom. And so they're learning all kinds of really great skills. They're learning social skills, how to get along with each other, how to sit at a table, patience, you know, they have to wait for their turn on their food. They're learning math and reading skills, sequencing. They've got to learn how to follow directions. They're also learning communication skills, life skills, and practicing fine motor skills. So there's a lot involved in just a simple cooking activity. You would think it was silly. Like last week we made it was Jell-O with graham crackers in it, or Teddy Grahams, and we had the best time in the whole world. It was just so much fun, but we practiced a lot of different skills, and so it's really important that we're able to incorporate all of those skills into activities, learning activities, to help all of our students succeed.
Mount Taylor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marisol Camacho Prieto, and I'm Anna Marie Fletcher, and we're assistants from Mount Taylor School. And this year, our summer ended kind of rough, and we wanted to bring some positivity into our school, and we wanted to start with our staff members. So we've started a positivity board, or a shout out board in our front office. When you come in, you'll probably see it on the wall, and it's just a shout out board for our staff to spread some positivity to one another. Because once we start with positivity with ourselves as the adults, it'll come through to the students, and we're hoping it'll flow just to our students as well. And the staff that are pictured up on the top are staff of the week that we pick. Every week we have different staff, not just one staff member. And it's not just teachers, it's different people throughout the school. So we're trying to teach our kids that, you know, we can appreciate everybody no matter who they are and what they do around our school. And we're also hoping that it just spreads through our classrooms and start off the school year positive. And we have a picture of one of our classrooms outside playing, and he started off the school year having a good time.
Some of the other things that our school is doing is we have started an anti-bullying committee. We are part of the Sunshine Committee where we're doing the positivity. It's all our PAs. They're hoping to get off the ground a PTA committee. We have our student council who has just started their voting process. So we have a lot of things going on in our school. That's all we have.
I think that's awesome. You gotta give each other high fives. It's really important for those of us adults who come to school every day, having to meet the challenges of working with our kids. Super.
And then we have some GHS cross country and soccer pictures. Soccer is playing at Capitol, and Desiree Knighton, one of the moms from the soccer team, sent me those pictures.
Great.
And then I got to go to the Rio Rancho Jubilee, and we had a lot of our students participate in this from Laguna Acoma and from Grants High School. The gentleman to the right, Andres, also he placed 20th. So there's about 140 runners that run at one time. And if you've never been to a cross country meet, my goodness,
Yeah.
there's lots of hills and there's sand and there's downhills and there's grass and there's everything, and it's hot, and these kids just keep running. And so they did great. This is the girls with the boys team in the back just getting ready to cheer them on, and I watched that race, and that group of boys went from one part of the race to the next to cheer them on at the next spot, and then they went to the next spot and cheered them on there, and then they went to the finish line and cheered them on there, and it was great. They have a really good supportive team, and they have a JV and a varsity team this year, so that they're pretty big. The girls team, they had, I think, an 18th, and then they had a 3rd. So one of our freshman girls, I'll get you her name. It was on the notes and it didn't print, but one of our freshman girls placed 3rd out of those 140. And so you see Santa Fe Indian School has a whole pack running together, and then there's our little girl right there in the middle of them. So she did great. And
Yeah, amazing.
we had a good weekend. I'm usually a football mom, and so this is different for me. But
That's great.
all of our sports teams are showing well.
That's marvelous.
And that's what we have for you. So.
Thank you.
That's great little snapshots of all that we have here. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, so we have the public comment policy changes that we need to discuss. And just FYI, it's also an action item. I believe we've discussed this in past board meetings. We have a copy of this in your packet. And I think we've gone through it a couple of times. We made a few adjustments in the last meeting. And I think
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
We're at the point now where we think we're getting closer to action to adopt the changes.
Well, Mr. President, I'm kind of new. So what has precipitated the changes at this time, may I ask?
This was when we were at in the last year or so, the state school board associations would have workshops throughout the year, 2 or 3 times. And that was one of the, this was one of the presentations that they had done, is that there was a need to review different policies that we had. And one of them was a request to have a presentation on public comments, because some of these are pretty dated. And so there was a need, they felt the need to have this, have the matter of public comment clarified. What is it that is public comment? Is it, to what extent is it the requirement of a school board to do that? And for what purposes is a public comment? And what are the pros and cons about doing this? And so that was one of the precipitating things, is that a number of the school districts felt that there was a need to be much more guarded with respect to how we conduct the business of the board, and that the purpose of the business of the board is to conduct the business that, the agenda.
Yeah.
And that was one of the great concerns, is that we ensure that we do focus our discussions on the business at hand of that board meeting. Is Mr. Pettis, is Mr.
Mr. Sanchez is on.
Is he on? Mr. Sanchez, I cannot see you.
I am here, Mr. President.
Okay. I asked Mr. Sanchez to also to be a part of the conversation on our legal counsel, because it is important that we ensure that we sustain the effort to engage the community as we say we should, but also to make sure that we do not find ourselves getting into topics that are probably not a part of the board's agenda for that particular night. And that's one of the reasons. But I wanted to have Mr. Sanchez to our attorney to refresh our minds on this, and because it's been about 3 or 4 meetings and we've kept putting it off because it was we're running out of time on occasions. But Mr. Sanchez, would you refresh our memory on this, on the purpose?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The discussion started with the idea of public comment at board meetings is it is something you grant or you don't grant. The Open Meetings Act does not contemplate that there's public comment. The Open Meetings Act only requires that you do all of your meetings in the public so that the public has an opportunity to see you do business and to be present while you do business. And the statute itself does not permit or prohibit public comment. That is something boards choose on their own about having to do that. Now, once you do allow public comment, you now implicate all of the First Amendment rights that people have to speak to government officials. Okay, so what happens is that a long drawn out thing is that, it depends on what kind of forum you create for public comment. If you just create an open forum, which means anybody's allowed to come in and make public comment, is that you can get anything from a recipe for bizcochitos to I think the superintendent's doing this or his teacher's doing that, or I don't like your political beliefs or whatever. You can get any kind of comment you can imagine come in an open forum. Now, of primary concern to board compliance with the Open Meetings Act is that you're not even allowed to acknowledge any public comment that's not on the agenda. So basically, when somebody comes and starts talking about an item that's not on your agenda, lodges a complaint or whatever, all the board can do is thank you very much, next person who's speaking. That has proven to be very hard and difficult for some board members and certainly for some staff, is that at a board meeting, if somebody is not well informed, that you want to correct them or you want to discuss something. But once you start discussing, you violate the Open Meetings Act because now you're conducting official business on a matter that's not on the agenda. So what boards have done and what you're considering is a policy that creates what is called a limited forum. You inform the public that you're not creating an open forum for public comment, you're creating a limited forum for public comment. And what the limited forum is that you'll accept public comment on only those items that are on your agenda. It also prevents any OMA violations because even if a board member were to exchange or discuss the matter with the person who is making public comment, it is not a violation of the OMA because it is an item that's on the agenda. Also, it prohibits such as personnel complaints. Well, those things are never on your agenda, so you're not going to be able to entertain those, and we can let the public know that we have other policies and procedures in which you can make a complaint about personnel. Any other items such as that can be brought through some other written format that doesn't require public comment. Usually these public comments are usually what drives meetings to get out of control or drive conversations and create spectacles at these board meetings. So what all this policy does is help to refine that with a limited public forum. If you have it on your agenda and you guys are going to be discussing or you're going to be voting on it and the public has comment on it, they're free to give public comment on that. And we provide the policies and the procedures of how they can do that and have a voice on what is actually in the business or what business the board is actually doing. So the policy just does that and certainly a lot more words than that, but certainly provides those policies and procedures that allow for a limited forum.
So, and that is a lot of what I heard over the last workshops with the School Board Association, with the boards, is that they wanted to hear the community, but much of what they were hearing were complaints against individuals.
Sure.
And they couldn't do anything, and it was named proper, and they felt that it created an unhealthy atmosphere at that time. When many of the meetings were extensively prolonged because of these costs. Sometimes you have to get 3 or 4, from what I was hearing, is you get 3 or 4 or 5 people coming up at the same time talking about the same issue, which oftentimes was about an individual. And that's really, and we were not in any position to say anything about that.
Sure.
Or if we do start talking about it, we start to violate
The agenda that's been adopted for that particular meeting.
But it also doesn't preclude them from coming back, and if it is going to be on the agenda, to be able to have an opportunity to express that at the next meeting. Nevertheless, it's still not a forum for we cannot create a forum for complaints against anyone, parents, students, principals, teachers. And we've had that in this district.
I know.
And so what we're trying to do is to say that you and I as board members will hear complaints. So we need to process those complaints and figure out how do we address those things in some proper format. So that's one of the things that we would do, is to be able to say, there are issues that are starting to surface. Do we feel that there's a need for us to?
So we just need to try and find a way to mitigate those without
Yeah.
just piling on to someone.
Yeah, and that's what happens all too often. And so some of the boards have begun to say, we've got to realize that we were voted in to conduct business of the district. And while we do appreciate the community's involvement, and we do want them to be involved in other forums such as advisory committees or parent-teacher association meetings, or all of those things are very important for us to do. However, there have to be some other means by which they communicate their concerns. And we do have policies. We do have policies that all schools and all parts of our organization know are the vehicles by which we address complaints. One of them, for instance, if they complain against the principal, there is a policy that is in place, that is available for them to make those kinds of complaints. And we would do a fair and objective investigation of those complaints. And many times parents, feel rightly that their complaints are legitimate. So we need to have some objective way in which we address those, and not come to the board meeting and express those issues. So that's the reason why.
So the form that's in this package, is it gonna be online somewhere? Do they have to pick it up at the superintendent's office? I mean, how is that gonna be projected to our community?
If a person is interested, they would contact the district and say, the district office, and they would say, we have this concern. And so we can advise them how best to address that concern. And Mr. Pettis has always taken the time to listen to an individual's complaint and try to channel it in a way that is constructive for that particular issue. Or principals do the same thing. To answer your question, the policies are should be on the district website.
I believe complaint forms, Mr. President, Mr. Hayes, we have a set of paper complaint forms in our office. And we also have it on the website.
Well, just making sure that, we don't wanna, reinvent the wheel, and make sure that if we're gonna improve something, let's just improve it and get it out there and say, well, the form is here, it's on the website, and this is the way to mitigate whatever problem you see in the community or with the school system. And that's how we just need to push it forward.
Yeah, and so there is a form that they would fill out if they're going to, if they still feel the need to make a presentation
Yes.
on an item that is there.
Okay.
Now, the drawback is that we don't prepare agendas 2 weeks ahead of time.
No.
That's not possible. So we're required to generate an agenda for the board meeting the week prior, primarily. And so then that is publicized. And they can see what is going to be on the agenda. And it is also on the website. And it has to be displayed, I'm not sure exactly where right now.
72 hours in
Recharge prior to,
public places, yeah.
Everybody is that, yes.
But once again, we board members do hear, and we are aware that individuals do communicate with us, and so we as individual board members have to figure out how to process that, and typically we would then advise them the appropriate way to address this, and to the extent of saying there are policies, there are forms, and if you have an issue with a teacher, common sense says to talk directly to your child's teacher and then to the child's principal. And even if you feel dissatisfied, that still can be conveyed up to the superintendent too. So that's what it's trying to do.
We just need to make sure that folks know what the process is, and I know, my wife worked in the school system, I can tell you firsthand, some parents do not know what the process is. So I just wanna make sure
All the
that
time.
everybody is aware that there is a process, and we're not gonna just push them away and say, well, we can't talk to you right now. Here's the process, here's the superintendent, here's your principal, here's your teacher, and we need to make sure that it's followed and pushed out there so that folks will know this is how it's going to be.
And we can see how this is gonna play out this year.
We'll see.
And that's what a lot of the boards are doing, is they're going to determine how best this does address dual needs. One is to ensure that the community is offered opportunities in some limited ways to communicate with the board, but also to ensure we spend more time in trying to channel those who are interested in expressing their concerns to those mechanisms we have in place right now. And that's really important, is that they feel that the best thing for them to do is to communicate directly with the staff person, teacher or principal who is the most involved with the issue at hand. Now, there are maybe other issues too that are more overreaching, that isn't necessarily related just to a child, but it could be more policy issues, it could be things. But those are some of the things that need to be expressed to the superintendent himself.
Yeah, because our school system has many moving parts, as we all know.
There's so many. You know, it could be complaints against the district with respect to, say, bidding.
Sure.
It could be a range of things that can come up. So that's one of the things. Right now, we have 3 board members, so I'm not sure. This is a part of the board members that we are just discussing the topic, and then afterwards we will then just determine whether we want to take action tonight or not. There are some sections that were modified, given some suggestions or concerns. One that has to do with making sure that things are orderly, that we do have a section about, I think Mr. Perez was saying, if they wish to complain against me, that's perfectly legitimate. But we need to have a method by which that's going to occur. So
Yes.
if we do approve this, then a procedure is going to be developed for any processing of that complaint specifically to the superintendent. And that will be in order. Any other comments, Mr. Sanchez?
No, Mr. Board President, I think you covered it. Like I said before, it's just trying to focus the board meetings on business. The board simply can't be a recipient of personnel complaints, because those go to the superintendent, because only the superintendent has authority to address those. We don't want student complaints being made to board meetings because of FERPA and confidentiality that goes along with that. We have an ability to accept those complaints through another venue as well. So we're just trying to focus public comment on what's on the agenda. If the board finds a complaint to be something they need to address publicly, they certainly can put it on the agenda for our next meeting, and then it's full discussion.
And we control that.
Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments? Let's go on to the next item.
Okay, Mr. President, Board, next presentation is I request the budget development plan for our 2023-2024 budget. So never too early to start talking about next year.
Never too early. Don't mind next month.
It is too soon to start.
You wish.
Mr. Board President, board members, and Mr. Superintendent. Yeah, so it feels like when you're swimming a 200-meter race, right? And we just finished it, and now we're at the point where we touch the other end and start going back the other side. And that's what the budget building process is kind of like with us. I have to tell you though, I want to mention something before I get into this presentation here is last week I had the privilege of addressing the New Mexico School Board Association Region 2 meeting in Chama. First of all, a beautiful place to go, but I met people like you from all over the region up there, and it was interesting to hear their stories, that they're struggling with the same things I hear in these meetings here. They're celebrating the same things that we see here as well. And I have to tell you that I come back, it was refreshing to be able to come back to a board that is so generous and so aware of things that we're facing and allows us to make these kinds of gives us the latitude to make the changes that we need. Some of those boards don't have that opportunity, and I was telling Mr. Perez that I met his counterparts out there, and I was representing not only the grants schools, but also the New Mexico Association of School Business Officials. And so it was a real treat for me to meet people, and I was glad to come home because even though it's a beautiful place, I don't want those challenges that they have up there. So let's talk about the budget for coming up in the next school year, 23-24. Hard to believe that it's already that time, but that's what it is. And so I'm going to share with you next slide. That here are the things that we want to consider going into the next year as we move forward towards the end of this year and start with next year. So first of all, the ESSER funds. As you might remember, $22.5 million came roaring into the district. We came up with plans on how we're going to use that. We still have a lot of that money left over because we went, especially with CTE, we went into the planning stages, and now it's time for the implementation stages where cash is going to start flowing out more. And so things we need to consider about that is how much is left to be done and how much time do we have to do it in when those funds have to be expended by the fall of 2024. Seems like a long way out, but it really isn't. We have an opportunity to extend some of that expenses out to into January, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we have a lot of things to accomplish. We want to do it and get ready for the next school year and do it as quickly as possible in a manner that is both methodical and logical for us so that we can implement it and come out of the gate with winning programs. So the ESSER funds, those are the big ones. The student needs, we want to make sure that as we not only look at what's in our strategic plan in terms of the accomplishments that and the goals that we want to accomplish for the next year, we also look at what is coming down the pike with Yazzie Martinez ruling, as well as our own observations about what our student needs. We didn't need Yazzie Martinez to tell us that we needed to pay more attention to certain areas and we needed to look at certain populations. We didn't need that. We already had identified many of those, and now we just have the opportunity with additional funding to actually address those and take care of those. So we want to consider those student needs moving forward. And it's not just those who are at risk. We also want to celebrate and give programs for those who are exceeding accomplishments, right? We want to look at the not just special education, but those who are excelling and doing more than what we see as the average student. So we also also want to celebrate that and put money into that as well. And then coming up in the legislative session, which just starts in January of next year, runs through March, we also want to influence some of the session outcomes that come through there. I don't anticipate a tremendous amount of changes just by looking at that, what the agenda, what we're hearing so far through NMASBO. But there is a lot of money to spend at the state level. There just is. And I think it's going to be a real challenge for the legislature to really parse that out in a manner that is meaningful and that doesn't set us up for this cliff at the end of whatever that time period is where all the money falls away and we then have to retract. We don't want to do that. And then, of course, forecasting what it's going to be like here in the next few years for our community, job-wise, tax base-wise, things like that. These are things to really take into consideration. You may remember or know that on Thursday, I'm meeting with the New Mexico Financing Authority Board as they consider our $3 million bond. They always ask questions about the future of the grants in Cibola County area. I'm always smiling, always very optimistic, and at the same time realistic so that they understand we will have the tax revenue to pay this money back. So these are the things that impact our budget in the next coming year. Of course, I touched on sustainability. How are we going to be able to continue funding at the level that we're at right now and manage the expectations of not only our employees in terms of what they expect for raises. As you remember, this year we had significant increases, which brought us really, and I don't begrudge those because it really brought us into par with where we need to be in attracting individuals and attracting quality staff members. It really brought us there. And then, as you remember, this district went above and beyond what was requested from the minimum at PED. And so we really began to really set that bar a little bit higher for us. And we're really seeing the results of that now and the benefits of what we did. So that's really good. But I want to know, how are we going to sustain that in the future as federal money tightens up a little bit, as state money begins to tighten up? And I think we can do it as we begin to really sort of modify and sort of change a new paradigm in how we deliver education. It's very doable. Cash is always a very big thing. I used to work for a Catholic health system with the nuns. And I remember Sister Monica, who used to run the entire multi-state healthcare system. She used to always tell me, Steve, no money, no mission. So that's the way it is here. I look at that same thing. We don't have any money, we can't really extend our mission. So we want to start saving that money more now than ever. When I first came in, coming from the private sector, I didn't understand how we had so little money in reserves. And I remember talking to Mr. Perez going, we have to put more in there. And he was afraid it was going to get clawed back. And I didn't understand that concept either. Once it's ours. But, we really need to start putting more money away. And so we come up with a strategy to do that so that we can position ourselves 5 years from now, 10 years from now, long after I've retired and moved to Hawaii. We have enough money to sustain what's doing here. And then our projects, as you know, we have 2 large replacement projects, as well as many other, after being in the interim role for Mr. Triplehoy, I thought, oh my gosh, there is so much to get done, and we have a lot of projects going, and all I can see with this, not only the benefit of that, but it draining on the cash, right? And we always have to spend the money first and then get reimbursed from the state, so it's kind of like loaning your kids some money and then expecting them to pay you back at a certain time. And I've seen enough Judge Judy episodes to know that people don't always pay you back when they say they're gonna pay you back, right? And so some of our RFRs, or requests for reimbursements, are taking between 60, 90, sometimes 180 days. So we still have payroll, we still have all the other things to do. So we want to get better at that and get better at managing that with all these projects in place, all right? So don't go crazy on the cash, okay? And then of course, the big one, the $7 million investment in CTE, it really is an area where we need to identify not only how we're going to sustain what we or launch what we're doing now, but what does that funding look like in the future as we begin to get more interest. I remember when you approved the mechatronics labs over at Laguna Acoma, you were all asking questions. how many people are gonna join this, right? And right now, it's this many people, but we're anticipating in 4 or 5 years, it's gonna be this many people. 74 people, so it's this many people now. So already it's grown and a lot of great interest. We want to be able to figure out how we're gonna budget for that. So those are things impacting that school budget. One more slide. Well, here's the schedule of what we're proposing so far, very broad right now, but in November, we're gonna review our progress on the strategic plan to make sure what can we check off and what do we need to not necessarily put resources to and where do we need to move it to accomplish other things in the strategic plan. We want to, of course, then get updates from our tribal partners about what they're seeing in their needs as well and how we can partner with them to meet the needs of their students that they have particular interest in. And then, of course, we have the facility master plan that we have to update. We anticipate a lot of work getting done by December. That will really start to frame and shape where we want to go in the next year, give us a bit of reference points so that we can start identifying where money needs to go. I don't anticipate, just telling you now, a whole lot of shift or swift changes in what we've done, because this year was a year of big change. So next year, I think it's just going to be some minor adjustments here and there. So as we began to turn the aircraft carrier, right? It takes a long time for the aircraft carrier to start turning, and that's what we're going to see next year is where we're going to start focusing, and then that's what we're going to use put money towards. And then, of course, in January, the legislative session starts, ends on March 18th. We don't know what's going to come out of that. If you remember last year, we kind of scrambled at the last minute to put in place all of the salary schedules, all of the changes, all of that. We anticipate some of that coming up this year as well. Our spring budget workshop, where we get what our unit value is going to drive a lot of what money we're going to get for the SEG, the state equalization guarantee, will also drive what happens in next year's negotiations with the unions as we open up that contract. And then our budget will be due in May for the PED. So that's where we're going right now. Sort of an overview of what's happening, and I stand for any questions, comments.
Mr. President, through you to Mr. Monzano. Yeah, May 2023, is that the final stage or is that another, like you present it and then if there are changes, you make additional changes before the fiscal year ends in June 30th?
No.
It's May is it?
May is when we submit the budget to the PED and they review it for approval. And we usually get that approval by the end of May, first week of June, and then we can start building our internal budgets and start planning. So is that your question?
Yes, and now, because I want to, do they make any recommendations to the school board? Or they just rubber stamp and send it back to you?
So the PED doesn't rubber stamp anything,
That's what I'm getting
first of all. Because we are in constant contact with our, and we have a good relationship with our advisor from the PED, our representative. So he's aware of everything that's going on in the meantime. I mean, he's very involved with what we're doing and was very helpful last year as the last minute changes came on. And then our new Deputy Director, Sarah Cordova, was on the phone with us, making changes to our budget with us and saying, here's what you need to do to get this approved. And we had already brought many of those changes to the board, so it wasn't any surprise. But this was just sort of the technical part of it, how to get it done so that the PED would then I sent them a rubber stamp and they sent it back.
They sent it back and
But they did approve it, so they had no questions asked.
Because I know there are some definite deadlines that have to be met. I mean,
Yes.
I've seen them all along the way, my profession, this profession, the whole 9 yards. I'm just making sure that May is it and it's not June, because with the city, it's June. They have a preliminary May, and then June is cast in stone, and they have a 30-day window to fix it if they have to do something, but not with schools.
I wouldn't want a 30-day window, because we give them a budget that's ready to go, right?
Well,
And
and,
so making last minute changes is very difficult for us,
we-
because we're hiring people and we're putting salaries together and we can't make those changes. I don't really know how the city operates, but for us, after 3 years in this role doing this budgeting process, that it was very different for me coming from the private sector. I'm comfortable with it now. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm comfortable.
Be careful with what you're saying.
Now, and,
You know he's gonna take that back, yes.
you know, that's not in the minutes, is it? Yeah, so, I mean, I'm comfortable with what's needed, so, yeah. All right, any other questions?
Comments? What,
Thank you, Steve.
what I think is it's outlining early on, as you said, it's here in September, we're already talking about the budget. But I think it's important for the board to be in sync with you with respect to what it is that we think we have to do. And every year we try to get better at all of this that we're doing. In academics, we've really made remarkable progress in trying to rethink how we do things, and we're smarter about it. And just the same thing for with our budgeting. That has to be in sync with what Rain is doing. We gotta make sure that we're taking care of business for the academic portion of what it is that we're doing. So, and the board we will have priorities that we'll be talking about. So as they refine and tell us a bit more, and I would expect that we'd have another extended conversation about how this is all gonna play out, what our role is gonna be, what the role of the stakeholders are gonna be, because the community needs to know that this district is fiscally sound and that it is capable of addressing those needs as to the extent possible. And we want to see that our engagement is going to be mutually appreciated by our communities as well as by our staff. Mr. Pettis, any more?
That's it for the budget timeline. Mr. President, Board, next presentation I'd like to talk about is I requested the board calendar review, and that you have a copy of that in your packet on the last section of presentations. And this is a draft of the board items that are coming out throughout the year. And Lorraine and I put together the draft for this, and so we appreciate the board's input on what else you'd like to have included in that or changed.
So take a look at this. As one of our homework kind of assignments is that as we go through this, if there's something else that we need to bring up, by all means, contact the superintendent to say, why don't we put this in this month, or are we gonna do this or do that? And we can make sure that it's in there. But it's important for the board to kind of have an idea of what we're gonna be talking about throughout the year. And key milestone decisions that have to be made with the administration, making the appropriate kinds of presentations. Because we know budget is one of them.
Yes.
And then and a range of other things that are gonna come up. So administration, would you be so kind as to make sure you help us flesh out this calendar so that we know up ahead of time what the agendas are gonna, we almost should be able to create agendas in place, templates with certain things that we already know are gonna be there. And they will know that they have to make a presentation. Say if there's gonna be a presentation on curriculum adoption or something, that we'll know that that's gonna take place in January. Or if there's gonna be some other kinds of presentations, we'll know to be looking out for those kinds of things. So that's why it's important for us to do that. Right now, I don't have any, it's just an assignment, board members, that we will continue to flesh this out. Mr. Pettis.
Okay, Mr. President, Board, action items. First action item is consideration of approval of changes to the public comment policy. Mr. President, Board, I recommend that we do it. Accept and approve the changes to the policy.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move to approve the consideration of proposed changes to the public comment policy.
Is there a second? Second by Hayes, to approve the changes to the public comment policy as presented. Roll call?
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. If there are any administrative procedures or regulations that are going to be, that need to be drafted, we will present those, later. Because they'll have to take a look at this and see if there are any rules or regulations they need to be used by the administration, by the public, including say any complaint processes. So we'll all see it together. Everybody will know these are the processes in the event of that they need to do that. Thank you very much. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, the next action
Motion
item,
carries.
consideration of approval to purchase applicant tracking and forms program for the Human Services Department. I do recommend that we approve this action item as presented.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved by Robert Hayes, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ron Ortiz to purchase applicant tracking and forms program for Human Resources Department as presented. Any final discussions about that to summarize for what the purpose is of administration?
Mr. President, Board, so we reviewed some different programs to improve our human resources processes and procedures. After several presentations by different vendors, and this particular vendor, we had them present to us twice. We feel that it'd be in the district's best interest to move forward with this this program. And I believe that Ms. Lisa, do you wanna share your thoughts on it?
And so when I came on board, we had no applicant tracking. We still have no applicant tracking. We had a paper PDF application process. And so it was pretty difficult to recruit teachers from outside our area. And the way the recruitment happened for teachers that were outside, we scanned the application and sent it via email, and they scanned it back and sent it back. And so it was very archaic. We didn't have a lot of, we weren't updated. We progressed a little bit and we got a form online. And so it gave us a little bit of mobility. We really need to get updated with our recruitment and our processes with that applicant throughout their onboarding and training and onboard. And so this program will give us the availability not only to recruit, but to onboard and see that applicant throughout the process of hiring them. And it'll take us to up-to-date level, and it'll be very helpful with recruiting teachers. And not only that, there's some capabilities with our current staff as well, as far as forms and things that we can streamline in our district as far as training and getting a little bit more electronic forms. We have I-9s, W-4s, and those types of forms that are required. And it'll help with auditing purposes, so it's very beneficial. And it'll take GCCS up to the next level in human resources.
Board members? Entertain a motion? We already did. Call for the motion. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Staff. Consent agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I recommend that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
If there are no questions, then we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Bob Hayes. Motion made by Ron Ortiz, seconded by Robert Hayes, and approval of the consent agenda as presented. Roll call.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Shambo.
Yes. Motion carries. Mr. Pettis, you are prepared to go into executive session? For the staff and public, we are going to go into the executive session. Discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to section 1015-1H2 of the Open Meetings Act for discussion of the evaluation of the superintendent, providing current feedback and preparing for the formative feedback session that will take place at an October board meeting. Board discussion may occur with its legal counsel under the attorney-client privilege in anticipation of litigation pursuant to section 1015-1H7 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved by Robert Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron Ortiz, pursuant to the New Mexico Open Meetings Act under section 1015-1H7 of the Open Meetings Act. Roll call, please.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo,
Yes.
Number 6.
6.
Take something.
6:41.
His clock.
Mr. President, I'd like to, if we could, take just a few minutes. We have some desserts in the PD room that we invite everybody to come and grab a snack in the celebration of Dr. Martin's citizenship.
Oh, all right. Citizenship snacks, tacos?
All Americans.
All American.
Tacos. So we'll give ourselves a few minutes. We're gonna go into the other,
Yeah, it's all down there.
okay. Take your book. Your binder. The,
I'll be back on.
the board has come out of closed session at, 8:16. Is there a motion to reconvene the open meeting session?
So moved.
Moved by, is there a
Second.
second by Ron Ortiz to reconvene the open session? Roll call.
Robert Hayes.
Yes.
John Ortiz.
Yes.
Dr. Guyer Shambo.
Yes. The meeting discussed only those matters that we referred to in the notice for executive session, which had to do with the discussion of the evaluation of the superintendent feedback, informative preparation of the feedback session, and discussion with legal counsel. Superintendent's report?
Okay, Mr. President, Board, District Safety and Security. So just a few notes. I don't know if you know this, but we've had every staff member in the entire district required everybody to do the Alice certification. So what it is they have to do a 40-minute video and they have to take a test to get certified. So I'm sure we haven't gotten everybody, but that's what we want to get is 100% everybody certified. We got we got a lot of our staff that's already certified in Alice. Alice is a active shooter training curriculum. We've signed up for that, so we paid their subscription, so we're gonna be participating in that. This is the initial phase, but it's gonna be part of us as we grow through the next year or two.
I attended one of those in Gallup, what, 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, did you?
when it was first started.
So it's and what I like about it is it keeps up with the changing times, cause you know, a few years back, there's things like, lockdown. You just get under your desk, hide and just wait. Now it's like move and get the heck out of Dodge. So there's those kind of things that change, just turning the lights on and off has changed. So it's keeping up with the latest research and unfortunately all the things we learned from other incidents across the country. So we paid for that, we've engaged in it, we have our staff well on the way. We used our professional development days to get a lot of that accomplished. But then after that, the follow-up was with Palms and Associates. We have a guy named James Vautier. He worked for Palms and he's an expert presenter in this area. So as a follow-up, he came and did sections of our staff at the PAC. We had like probably 100 staff per hour, every other hour. And did a very interesting presentation to the staff and talked about everything from simplifying the lockdown, evacuation, shelter in place, to how to lock and close doors, when to barricade, when not to. So there's just a multitude of different things. Unfortunately, we have to talk about nowadays. He talked about how most of the incidents happen under 4 minutes, and how many things can happen within 4 minutes before you get the response from the police. So actually, one of the meaty parts of the presentation was we have to know what to do because we can't wait for the police to get there. So there's a lot of things that can be done. So we've got a lot of things. I just talked to Mr. Hayes earlier about even the fire hose pieces that we put on the doors to keep them locked. You can slide those over the levers on the doors so that they won't open. So we got, there's a lot of work being done there with him, with Ponds. He's gonna continue working with our district and get into the more refined areas about how to analyze and evaluate different schools and vulnerability points at every school. So he'll train us and work with us on that with all of our staffs at all of the school sites. So that's gonna be ongoing with Alice. What I'd like to do this, Cynthia, so you can see the certification program, is have the boards sent a link So you
Really?
can actually do the training yourself. You can get certified if you want to. If you just take the test at the end, but we'll send them a link. And so we paid for plenty of subscriptions for that. Cause you have to pay by the person, but I think we have enough to cover the board as well. So that's going on. We have, as I mentioned, we have building our security guards. Jeremy Hawkers are now our district lead security, so he'll be helping and guiding. I think you'll notice some big changes at the high school already here. Where they're being more strategic and placing people out of different places. When you go, you have to sign in to get into the high school here. You have another guard over here watching on the student side or the staff side. Those kind of things. We're talking a lot about presence. We have a district vehicle and be present, visible at all places. We're doing the same thing at Laguna Acoma. We're gonna start our first actual district-wide security meeting this coming Monday with all of the guards present. We got them all outfitted and fitted with the vests, with the bulletproof plates inside of them, so all of our guards. That also helps with identifying them as security people. So we're standardizing that and getting that in place. And then, of course, we're also working on getting the armed people. So that's quite a process. We're learning about it as we go. The presenter, James Aute with Palms, he's also gonna be working with me and helping us walk through that process to get our insurance. He's actually works for the insurance company, so he'll know how to get us insured and see what that cost is gonna be.
Well, that's gonna be an on-board agenda because I think you need to get board consideration of that, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have the meeting with the board, and then also, radios, we ordered another, several radios, probably our third layer now, our third round, our third order of a bunch of, Kenwood radios. And I worked with, Dustin Middleton, so he came and met with, Mr. Hawker and he actually brought me one of the FEMA radios that he had that I can have, so we're organizing that, so we have a few of us that have the actual, the radios that can connect to everybody. And then all of our schools have the basic radios. And we're trying to get plenty of those out there to all the schools. So we're making some headway on the communication side of that. But Dustin's gonna continue working with us. And one of the things we came up with too is we're gonna have monthly meetings. We started to a few years back and COVID hit and changed the world. But we'll be having monthly meetings with the local law enforcement, including GPD, Sheriff, Dustin, Sheriff, Fire here, and then they've also asked Milan to be included so we can have at least a touching base. We would be, glad to lead that effort, but it'd be nice to have everybody just touching base once a month and growing to a place where we can have some maybe at one point community drill.
Well, we did have another one. It's
been a while.
7 years, I think 2015 was the last time we had.
So, and the state police is also involved. I don't know if I told you, there's the new state police lieutenant, Teresa Maria, thank you, who's been really interested in what we're doing. She even went with one of our walkthroughs at Mount Taylor with us. So we're involving the state police with that. We have a new a new district safety and security team, which is well-rounded with a couple of principals and Jerry with transportation. We have myself, Jeremy Hawker, so we have a good, well-rounded team. And what we've been doing is meeting at every school site and walking through and checking all security access, vulnerability points, fencing, gates, access controls, cameras. We have technology as part of our team as well, and they'll go and check the camera systems and see what the needs are. We're not where we need to be, but all of our members have a system where we input all of the data into a spreadsheet, and now we have a laundry list of things that need to get done, and it's gonna be quite an expense. So we're working on sorting through that and then coming and finding the funding to accomplish all of those safety needs that we have at every school site. So then, so again, we're equipping, we got the vehicles for the security guards, we got one more in order, that won't be here until, I think, December, or another set of vehicles, not till March. But side by sides, security will be dressed and painted just like the security vehicles. We'll have 2 Broncos and probably 2 side by sides. We want one for Laguna, we want one for here, and we want one for the middle school. So
Just please develop a good SOP on the use of the side by sides. They must wear their seatbelts all the time because we went to an accident. One of my deputies went to an accident where someone was killed recently in a side by side, but he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And that's just the most imminent thing you need to do because the rollover cage will protect you, but you gotta stay inside.
I agree 100%. My brother-in-law just 2 years ago, side by side, didn't have his harness on, broke his neck and his back, and he's crippled for life right now. So thank you. So those are a few things. We continue looking for funding for fencing. One of the things that presenter talked about was that's really secondary. When something happens, these perpetrators find a way to get inside the school, fencing or not.
Really?
Yeah. So we will continue to do that, but it's not probably the most effective piece to look at. I think the most effective life-saving thing that we can do is know what to do and practice the response if something happens. Do I run, hide, or fight, or all of the above? Lots going on there. That's kind of the update. I don't, is there any questions on security? There is, I'm sure I left out some of those things there.
Mr. President, to Max, in the legislative funding thing, are you asking for any monies for these when the funding's coming up? I'm hoping you are.
Yes, and I,
You're probably not alone.
yeah, and I appreciate that because we have our legislative issues that we're all getting behind, and I think one of them is security, but I think we can be more specific here in our district when we get Lorraine is working on getting our legislators together on
September 28th.
September 28th. So we'll get our local legislators together, and we want to say, because they're getting ready to go to legislative session, and we want
their wishes with them, yeah.
want them to know what the district's about, because I've seen too many times where the legislators will be in Santa Fe and not know what their districts are about or what they're wanting, so we gotta make sure Harry and Alicio and Josh Sanchez know where we're at and what we need. We'll support all these legislative items, but we also need to make sure that they go to bat for us on our security funding.
And I just hope that that's up on the list of every legislator in the state. If they got extra funding, they need to funnel some of those funds down to the local communities because this is where it's at. This is where we're gonna, and some folks, well, that never happens in New Mexico. Yeah, it has. There are 5 instances where things have happened, and they're happening all the time. Even they're adjacent to schools, they're still happening. So, yes, thank you.
And that leads right into the next item here, but it definitely is on the legislative priorities, at least from the New Mexico School Board Association, is local control, flexibility, educator recruitment, our cash reserve, holding harmless for declining enrollment, student and staff safety is on here, so. And our extended learning times, culturally and linguistic responsive curriculum, and digital divide, broadband. And I think I don't know, Dr. Guy, if I'm sure you've seen these through New Mexico school boards. I can give copies of these if you don't have it already.
Well, ultimately, by December, we should have the districts know what we're gonna be advocating for in
So just send it, just scan them and send them to our email.
The other thing I'd like to encourage us to do is to work with them. Coordinate what their needs are, see how we can support whatever it is that they're doing. I know they got don't they have a bond election coming up?
far as security, are you talking just legislative in general?
Legislatively.
Okay. Yeah,
With, talk with, what's her name? Doctor?
Marlene.
Yeah, Turban. Yeah, and see if there's anything, I think we need to always support that campus and in whatever way possible. Because I remember last year, there was a bill that through one of the Lente bills, they were trying to funnel money into those schools that were serving Indian populations. And I figured that this school ought to be one of them that gets whatever that they were seeking. And I'm not sure where it went. It may not have gone anywhere, but I think we need to just help that campus out as much as possible. So if you could touch base with her sometime.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have an alignment with what she's asking for and what we're asking for. On the 28th, when that meeting happens, I'd like to, get the board's thoughts too on what you all would like, outside of safety and security. Is there anything else outside of supporting the New Mexico School Board items? I think from my perspective, if there are any funds like that at all, we like some extra support for transportation and bus compound and safety, security. Those would be the two high priorities from my perspective.
Funded mandates. There might be still some of those still hanging around. Anyway. So that's one of the thanks. So we would trying to get together on the 28th, I guess, with early in the morning sometime.
What time is
8 o'clock?
8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, sorry.
9 o'clock.
We're in the middle.
Here at Central,
Here at Central.
in the training room.
Okay. We're down to announcements. You see them? And in the first greeting period, in our board meeting, we did not, board training, how are we doing on getting us all there?
Everybody's go on October 10th except for Mr. Jones, and he hasn't given us a go ahead yet.
Year and A.
So
Everybody's
We have
so far.
4, so hey.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. President, what do we do at the board training?
At the board training, we select topics of interest that we need to talk about. So do you have any
For
topics?
future trainings or,
That particular training is for us,
okay, about we gonna
whatever
have-
topics of interest that you may have. What would like us to talk
Oh,
about?
something ahead of time. You want me to broach an idea before the 10th?
Mhm.
I thought you already had something established for the 10th that I need to know about. I'm like,
No,
what?
what,
We'll
if
figure
there's-
out something.
is there some things that you would be interested in talking about?
Well, the only one that I'd like to know about is, what do I do to get those 10 credits that you mentioned I'm supposed to get being a board member?
That's that NMSBA,
yeah.
10
So,
credits that we sometimes get.
You sometimes get, that sounds like that's a
What I'm saying
challenge.
is that as you read, that the state desires and calls for every board member to be trained.
Correct.
And so the way we have been getting those, if you do not put on your own training, well, we actually don't necessarily get credit for the training that we put on
We have
unless
it.
we work out an arrangement with the association.
Yeah, curriculum has to be established. I do the same thing from a firefighter, so I know what you're talking about.
So otherwise, it's attending all the different workshops and conferences that they hold.
Like the one in Moriarty.
One in Moriarty. The one in December
It's the,
is a big one that gives you almost quite a few credits.
Okay.
And then 2 in the spring, one in Santa Fe and the other one, I don't know where the other one is at. Albuquerque, and then the one in the summer. Oh, no, 2 in the summer. So there's multiple opportunities throughout the year that the association, and you can explain it better than I can, but that's.
And it fulfills the requirement that they
Fulfills
ask
the
you to
requirement.
do.
Yeah, and at the end, and in the summertime, they give us a report card on How many did you earn?
Yeah, I sent an email.
You sent an email.
So, kind of getting a little bit, maybe what you're asking, Mr. Hayes, is boards typically have local trainings, like, and periodically, once or twice a year or more sometimes. But it seems to me like in my experiences, the board, they never get enough of the board's roles and responsibilities. Seems like there's always, that's usually part of the trainings, some board roles and responsibilities. And then from there, it can go anywhere, so what do you feel like you need more? You could learn more about the financial side of things. We've talked about, you'll do more on the evaluation of the superintendent, whatever we think the need is. But it's usually always tied to the board roles and responsibilities. And we can carve that, we can tailor it to whatever our current needs are.
So, and we can do it as often as possible.
As possible, yeah, not as you need.
That's
as
the part,
possible.
is can we get, and we've tried, but we
We
haven't.
have trainers, like, we have an attorney, we're attorneys,
Attorneys.
we have other respected people on the board and other places.
If I go online and take this Alice class, will that be nothing? I won't-
It's not a board, it's not a New Mexico School Board sanctioned activity.
Wow.
Yeah,
Unofficial.
Unofficial, okay.
but you'll get a certificate.
Ooh.
Get your certificate. Future agenda items, talk to either Max or I. We ready for adjournment? Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Hayes, seconded by Ron Ortiz to adjourn the meeting. Roll call.
Robert Hayes?
If I say no, do I have to stay?
Yeah.
That's a yay. Yes.
I think we cannot vote you on that.
Ortiz?
Yes.
Dr. Guyer,
Yes, motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at
8:30. Almost, let's go to work.
So